In this video, you'll learn how to make your WordPress site faster by using Webp Images. Let's go. Hey, welcome to a new Tuts Plus tutorial. If we're just meeting, my name is Adi Pordilo. I'm a web designer, and my goal with these videos is to help you become a better web designer and developer. Now, as we all know, images are the heaviest parts of a website or a web page. Heavy as in file size. The more images you have, the bigger the file size of that particular page. And with bigger file size comes bigger loading times, and nobody wants a slow website. That's why image optimization is critical. People usually compress or resize the images, but they rarely look at the image format. And that's a mistake, because we now have access to Webp, which is a modern image file format that can reduce the file size without affecting resolution or image quality. So let me tell you more about Webp and how you can use it with WordPress. But before we do that, since we're on the topic of WordPress, here's a quick message from Envato Elements. With one subscription, you'll have unlimited access to WordPress themes and plugins, web and email templates, Bootstrap templates, and more. There are millions of digital assets to choose from. They have simple commercial licensing, and you can cancel anytime. Subscribe now using the link in the video description. All right, let's talk Webp. As I said, Webp is a modern file format for images that offers great quality, supports transparency and animation, but has a much smaller file size than your traditional PNGs or JPEGs. How much smaller, you may ask? Well, according to these studies from the Google team, around 26% smaller versus PNG images, and between 25% and 34% smaller versus the equivalent JPEG images. That is pretty awesome. You'll find these studies linked down below if you fancy a closer look. Now, this format was actually created back in 2010 by the web performance team at Google. The reason we're talking about it now is that people don't really know about it. You can't, on your computer, you can't really save an image as Webp as you're used to from a browser or an image editing app. Currently, you can only save as GIF, PNG, JPEG, all the usual stuff that we've been using. In fact, the Webp format is currently used by just 3.1% of all websites, based on this report from W3 Techs. That is a pretty small number. And until recently, Webp wasn't even supported by a lot of browsers, so there was no good reason to use it. It's a different story today in 2022, with Webp being supported by all major browsers, with the exception, of course, of Internet Explorer. There are also some issues in Safari. This doesn't support Webp unless it's on macOS Big Sur or later. Now, we also have plenty of good reasons to use Webp over other image formats. That is for the web, of course. It can compress images without affecting quality too much. It has both lossy and lossless compression, and it supports transparency, color profiles, animations, and metadata. So to show you the differences between some traditional image formats and this modern one, we first need to get our hands on a Webp image. And that's a bit trickier, as I said, because on your computer you can't just save an image as Webp, nor can you add that extension manually, right? It doesn't work. So currently, at the time of this recording, which is early 2022, there are 3 ways to get a Webp image. Number 1 is to use a Photoshop plugin. Number 2 is to use an online converter. And number 3 is to use a command line utility made by Google. So let me show you how you can get a Webp image. So probably the easiest way is to use an online converter like this one from Convertio. It's a JPEG to Webp. Here you just choose the file, you select the entry or the input format, and then you choose to Webp, and it's going to convert it and you can download it. As I mentioned, there is also a Photoshop plugin. This is called Webp Shop, and you can download it here, and that's going to allow you to export images from Photoshop as Webp. However, I'm going to be using the Webp command line utility. This is made by Google. You can find more information about it here, as well as how to download it. And by the way, all the links that I showed you can be found below the video. So to actually install this, a very easy way is to install it with Homebrew on macOS. And I'm just going to say brew install Webp. Okay, Webp was just installed. And now I'm going to navigate to my desktop. I have a Webp folder there with an image inside it. It's this image here that I downloaded from Unsplash. You can also find a link. And it's a simple JPEG image. So to convert it, I'm going to say Webp-Q. That's for quality. I'm going to set it at a 80% quality. And then the entry, image JPEG, and the output should be image.webp. Enter, and it's done. Now I have two images, right? I have the JPEG and the Webp, which, by the way, just switching between them like so shows me exactly the same image, meaning I can't see any difference between the two, right? You probably can't see any differences because the video is compressed, but just by looking at my screen, I can't see any difference between the two. But now if we take a look at the file size, well, there's a big difference. The original JPEG was 3.2 megabytes because it's a very high resolution image. The Webp is 1.5, so a 50% file reduction, which is crazy, crazy good. So these are the three ways that you can currently use to get a Webp image. This is my favorite method because it's quick. But if you don't fancy working with the command line, you can always grab the Photoshop plugin, or much easier, use an online converter. Okay, hold on. Wait just 1 second. This is me from the future, about 2 months since I originally recorded this tutorial. And this is actually a funny story. I recorded this tutorial twice. The first time, when I recorded it the first time, WordPress 5.8 hadn't come out. And the only way you could use Webp images in WordPress was via plugin. So I recorded the tutorial shortly after 5.8 landed, and all of a sudden, hey, you can use Webp images in WordPress natively. So I remade the tutorial, right? Top to bottom. Now, 2 months later, after I finished recording the second version of the tutorial, where I said that, hey, on your computer, you can't save Webp images natively, right? You have to use a Photoshop plugin, just the stuff that I told you earlier. Well, Adobe came out and announced that, hey, starting with Photoshop version 23.2, you can now save images as Webp. Imagine my surprise. So here I am coming to you from the future to tell you exactly this. There is a fourth way to save images on your computer as Webp, and that's by using Photoshop 23.2 or higher, of course. So let me show you an example and see how easy it is. So here I have an image that I got from Unsplash. It's a JPEG, as you can see here. And to save it as WebP, you can simply go to File, Save As. We can save it on our computer, and under Format, you can choose WebP. Look at that. So let's save it. You can choose the image compression if you want lossless or lossy. You can also change the quality here by using the slider, by entering a value manually, or by choosing one of these presets. And then you have some additional options here for metadata. And when you're done, you can click on OK, and that's it. Now you have a WebP image on your computer. And if we open a Finder window, you can see that here is our original JPEG, and here is the WebP version. How awesome is that? So, to sum it up again, you now have 4 options to get a WebP image using Photoshop version 23.2. Mine is currently 23.2.1 to do it natively, right? You can use the plugin, the Photoshop plugin for versions that are less than 23.2. You can use the online converter, and you can use the command line utility from Google. Now, let's talk about WordPress and WebP, and there are good news. Since version 5.8, WordPress supports WebP natively. That means you can now upload WebP images directly to the media library and insert them into your content like any other image format. Let me show you. Here I'm on one of my websites that's using WordPress, and this is actually a live website. I'm running the latest version of WordPress, which is 5.8.3. And if I want to upload a WebP image, I can simply go to Media, Add New, and I can select the files. I'm going to open my WebP directory, and I have a new file that I uploaded, that I converted just now. It's a bit lower resolution than the first one, so I'm going to choose this one, Upload, and as you can see, this works without a hitch. So now if I want to add that to a post, I can go to my posts and I can add it here as an image. I can select it from my media library. Update, and that renders beautifully in the browser. As you can see, if we do an inspect here, we're loading a WebP image. Now, if you have the latest version of WordPress installed and this still doesn't work for you, if it gives you an error like format unsupported and stuff, that's because the web server's image processing library doesn't support the WebP format. So that's a server issue, and you need to contact your hosting. But usually these web servers use either Imagic or libgd as the image processing library, and both of these support the WebP format. So you shouldn't really have any issues. Now, what about unsupporting browsers? I mean, sure, browser support is great across the board, but there are still problems for IE or for Safari on Macs that don't run Big Sur or later. So what about the people who are using those browsers? They will not be able to load any WebP image. So what do you do? Well, in HTML, you would do something like this. Use a picture element, add the WebP image as a source, and fall back to a normal JPEG. In this case, browsers that don't support WebP will simply use the JPEG version. But you're not going to really do that by hand in WordPress. You can use a plugin for it, and there are several available. You can simply do a search for Webp in the WordPress plugin directory. But today I'm going to show you a cool plugin that's called Image Optimizer. So let's check it out. To get the plugin, you would go to Plugins, Add New, and you can simply search for like EU. And it's going to give you Image Optimizer. So go ahead and install that, activate it. Mine is already active. I'm going to go to my media library. And you know what? Let me actually delete every single file that I have here. So we can start fresh. Okay, cool. So let's add some new images. I'm going to choose some JPEGs this time. So I have a couple downloaded here. I have this. I have this, and I have this and this. So let's upload these. And with the images uploaded, let's go to my posts. And I'm just going to add a simple image gallery here. And I'm going to choose these four from my media library. Okay, let's insert that. And let's hit update. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to Chrome. So as you can see, we're now loading 4 JPEG images. They haven't been processed. They're just the ones that I uploaded. So now let's optimize these images with Webp, and I'm going to use the plugin. For that, let's go back to the plugin settings, and I'm going to check this one. Convert your images to the next generation format. Make sure JS and picture Webp rewriting are checked and click Save Changes. And now we can go to the media library, hit Bulk Optimize, and then hit Optimize Images. Of course, when you upload an image to WordPress, this also creates several versions of that image. So for this demo, I just let the plugin do its thing and optimize all of my images. And once everything is done, if we go back to our library, we can see that these images that I uploaded are now also available as Webp. So now, if we go back to Google Chrome and we do a refresh, you can see that we are now loading 4 Webp images instead of JPEGs, which is great. And if we also take a look at the source code, you will see that instead of a traditional image element, we now have a picture with a source. Let me actually make this a bit bigger. With a source that first loads the Webp image, and then it loads an actual image as a JPEG. So for browsers that don't support Webp, we have this JPEG fallback, and everything is done for us by the plugin. And what's also nice is that once you check this box in the settings, so convert your images to the next generation format, the Webp images will be generated automatically for new uploads. So you don't have to do the bulk optimizer by hand, except for existing images, but any new images that you upload will automatically be converted to Webp. All right, time for some key takeaways. Webp is a modern image format that has a much smaller file size than your traditional PNGs or JPEGs. Webp has both lossy and lossless compression, and it supports transparency, color profiles, animations, and metadata. Webp is currently used in about 3.1% of all websites, as of early 2022. Since version 5.8, WordPress supports Webp natively. To ensure complete browser support, use a plugin like Image Optimizer that will serve fallback image formats. All right, folks, and that's about it for Webp and WordPress. I think this format is a great step forward, and we should really start using it today to improve our website's performance, because nowadays when everybody is using a mobile device for browsing the internet, website performance is super, super important. With that said, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, take care.